Ezra Bridger's first lightsaber was a weapon unique in the history of the Jedi Order, combining a plasma blade with an integrated stun blaster. To Ezra, it was a product of ingenuity, born from a life of survival. But to his master, Kanan Jarrus, this invention was not a clever innovation. It was a concerning indicator of a potential flaw in his Padawan's connection to the Force. And today, we will explain the true reason for Kanan's disapproval. A disapproval rooted in ancient Jedi tradition and a deep fear for his students' future. When Ezra Bridger first constructed his lightsaber in the episode Star Wars Rebels: Path of the Jedi, it was immediately apparent that this was an unorthodox design. Forged from spare parts donated by the crew of the Ghost, it was less an elegant weapon and more a rugged, utilitarian tool. Over several weeks, Ezra tinkered and assembled these components, resulting in a functional, if unrefined, lightsaber blaster hybrid. Its design was a direct reflection of its creator. The lightsaber component suited Ezra's agile, developing style. The true peculiarity, however, was the built-in stun blaster. This was not a superfluous addition, but a solution born from necessity. This unique design carried a significant limitation. The power cell could not support both functions simultaneously. To fire a stun blast, the lightsaber blade had to be retracted, a critical vulnerability in combat. The weapon became a symbol of Ezra's journey, blending Jedi tradition with the gritty pragmatism of a street-raised rebel. The reasons for this unorthodox design are rooted in Ezra's early limitations as a Padawan. Early in his training, Ezra displayed a notable weakness in one of the most fundamental Jedi skills: deflecting blaster fire. Kanan's training exercises, which involved deflecting stones, highlighted this deficiency. The stun blaster, therefore, was not a feature of convenience, but a critical backup. It provided him with a method to engage enemies from a distance when his lightsaber skills were not yet sufficient for the task. We must also consider the era in which they operated. During the height of the Galactic Empire's power, openly carrying a lightsaber was an invitation for conflict with Inquisitors and Imperial forces. Ezra's hybrid design offered a degree of concealment. To a casual observer, the device more closely resembled a heavily modified blaster pistol than the sacred weapon of a Jedi. This allowed him to engage in combat without immediately revealing his force-sensitive nature, a significant tactical advantage for the nascent rebel cell. The design was well suited for a guerrilla fighter, allowing Ezra to switch between melee and ranged combat. From a purely practical perspective, the lightsaber blaster was a logical and effective design. If the weapon was so practical and suited to Ezra's circumstances, we must analyze why Kanan Jarrus disapproved. The series does not provide a scene of explicit condemnation. His disapproval is not overt but buried in the subtext, and in the very foundations of Kanan's identity as a Jedi. To understand Kanan's perspective, we have to examine his past. Born Caleb Doom, Kanan was a Padawan of the old Jedi Order before its destruction during Order 66. His training was traditional, steeped in the philosophies of 1,000 generations of Jedi. In that tradition, blasters were often regarded as uncivilized, in the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi. For a traditional Jedi, the lightsaber was a tool of defense, a symbol of discipline and mastery over oneself. It was an extension of the user's connection to the Force. Kanan's mission was not merely to ensure Ezra's survival. He was tasked with raising a Jedi, which meant instilling the values of the Fallen Order. He likely viewed Ezra's hybrid weapon as a philosophical compromise. By integrating a blaster directly into the hilt, the weapon became inherently both defensive and offensive. For Kanan, this design choice was likely perceived as a deviation from the Jedi path. A decision that prioritized survival over the core tenets of Jedi philosophy. Kanan's primary concern, however, was not philosophy. It was pedagogy. The lightsaber blaster was a crutch. The duty of a Jedi Master is to guide their student to face their weaknesses and overcome them through discipline. Ezra's weakness was blaster deflection. Instead of building a weapon that would compel him to confront and master this skill, Ezra built one that allowed him to circumvent it. Each time Ezra opted to use the blaster function, he reinforced a reliance on technology rather than trusting in the Force. This mirrors Kanan's own journey. After being blinded by Maul on Malachor, Kanan did not seek a technological replacement for his sight. He was forced to delve deeper into the Force, learning to see in a way that transcended physical vision. He understood on a personal level that true Jedi strength is derived from reliance on the Force, not from external devices. From a master's point of view, Ezra's saber was a shortcut, a clever solution for a survivor, but a dangerous delay for a Jedi Padawan, a tool that could prevent his student from reaching his full potential. Kanan's concerns were also intensely practical. Ezra's lightsaber was a prototype, assembled from scavenged parts. It was by its nature unproven and potentially unreliable. A Jedi's lightsaber is their life, and it must be a dependable extension of their will. Kanan, as a seasoned survivor of the Purge, would have recognized the danger of carrying a jury-rigged weapon into battle against the Galactic Empire. The moment Kanan Jarrus himself wielded this saber in his duel with the Grand Inquisitor is significant. After his own weapon was lost, Kanan used Ezra's hybrid saber, but this was an act of desperation and adaptability. It demonstrated the weapon's utility in a critical moment, but it did not negate its inherent flaws. It was Kanan, the skilled Jedi Knight, whose mastery made the weapon effective, not the other way around. This act highlights that while a master can use any tool, they would not choose a compromised one. The end for Ezra Bridger's first lightsaber came on Malachor. In a confrontation with Darth Vader, the hybrid weapon was effortlessly destroyed. This moment was more than the loss of equipment. It was a brutal symbolic lesson. Ezra's resourceful but compromised weapon was no match for the focused power of a true master. Kanan's unspoken fears were realized. The crutch had been broken. This destruction, however, became a necessary catalyst for growth. Following this loss, Ezra constructed a new, more traditional lightsaber with a green blade. The blaster component was gone. This change symbolized Ezra's maturation. He was no longer the hesitant Padawan who required a backup plan. He was ready to fully commit to the Jedi path. The green blade itself is often seen as a representation of growth and a deeper attunement to the Force. Years later, in the series Ahsoka, after losing his second saber, Ezra built a third. This final lightsaber is perhaps the most telling. It is a blue-bladed weapon whose design, as the droid Huyang noted, is an exact copy of his master's, Kanan Jarrus. This final design represented the culmination of his journey. He began with a weapon that symbolized his independent past and ended with one that was a direct tribute to the master who guided him. He had finally and fully embraced Kanan's teachings. The mystery of Kanan's disapproval was never a criticism of Ezra's ingenuity. It was the concern of a wise teacher who saw that a clever tool could become a barrier to true potential. The lightsaber blaster solved a short-term problem at the risk of stunting long-term growth in the Force. The story of Ezra's first lightsaber is, in effect, the story of his entire apprenticeship. The evolution of his weapon is a physical manifestation of his journey, from a self-reliant survivor who trusted in gadgets to a Jedi Knight who placed his trust in the Force and the lessons of his master.